Ryno, what's going on, my
Cullah.
friend? How you doing?
I am doing excellent. I am probably happier than I've ever been to live in Mississippi.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like another sunny day down there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Although I'm proud I have not actually had the air conditioning on yet.
Hmm.
Um, although this does remind me. Let's just start off. So when you were here in December, I'm used to keeping a cold house,
Hmm.
and I did not realize until afterwards. Sybil's like, it was really cold. You should have turned up the AC, son. Gave those poor kids some heat.
No, we're used to it. We're all so. For those of you tuning in here, I went through my last tour down when touring was a thing. You remember that?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
I remember that, but I remember that very fondly when we could travel from place to place singing our songs. But we went through Jackson, Mississippi on my last winter tour with Pretty Beggar, who's been on the
Mm.
podcast, and my sister Claire, and we all performed some things and hosted a performance. Ryno hosted us right in that little space right behind him, and it was
Mm.
it was super fun. And yeah, we got some of the best food probably we've ever eaten. Definitely the best food we ate on tour. That's for sure. Uh,
Well,
but
yes.
I didn't hear any complaints about how cold it was. We're all from Michael's from Minnesota and we're from Wisconsin. Although my sister Claire had been spending some time in Houston, so
Yeah.
she's kind of adjusted to the heat. She's saying it's been like she can only go out in the morning and stuff without it really being like burning heat. How much is it up? How hot is it right there now?
It's on in the high 70s.
Oh, that's not so
It's
bad.
right at the temperature I'm probably
Yeah.
going to consider putting on the air conditioning in the next day or so. I have a very wide range of temperatures, 62 to 78. If it's
Hmm.
somewhere in there, I'm happy. But what's hilarious is like on a day-to-day basis, I work with people in New York City and Toronto. So it's just like they're like, "Oh, it's so nice out." I'm like, really? They're like, "Yeah, it's 10 Celsius," and I'm like, "What's that?" And it's like 40. I'm like, what? And
Yeah,
it's
the
just you
Celsius
get
thing never.
used to what you're around.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's why you can adjust so fast. Like she went to Houston and now I don't know. Can you really, if you've been there your whole life, I suppose everyone retires in warmer places. And honestly, that's why I went through the South, down through the South in the wintertime was so I could get warmer, so I could get a little warmer. And I'm glad I did. And I plan to do it again.
Yeah.
And I plan to
Well,
do it again.
I'm going to tell you my dream, and this is as a kid that grew up in South Florida. I dream of one day becoming a snowbird. I want to fly
Ah,
south for the winter and fly north for the summers.
good luck. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Wait. So say that again. Let me get you go in the
Basically, what people do once you get down to South Florida, the tourist season for South Florida is actually the middle of winter
right.
because what happens is all the New Yorkers that have the money fly down to Florida for like December through March. So instead of sitting up in New York City freezing their asses off, they come down to
Right.
Florida and hang out in the cold weather. So it's weirdest thing. You'll be down in Fort Lauderdale in the middle of February. You'll see people walking around with Carhartt jackets on because they're freezing
Right.
their ass off. And you got these tourists in their bikinis out there and swimming in the water, just like, what?
Well, I wouldn't recommend coming up in the winter unless that's what you're into. Unless you really want to get hit with the elements and like really like be challenged physically, you know, like, and have your body get those stresses that it might. I mean, some people say you need that. Like I've argued. I mean, I've heard the arguments. That's why people in the Midwest are so calm and like and nice or welcoming, because it's like, oh god, everything out there is going to kill you most of the time. Please just like sit down and have some coffee or whatever it is, or drink a beer. Really is what they do. But I recommend coming up in the summertime, especially in Milwaukee and in Chicago in the summertime, especially like around mid-July or August is the best time of the year. Everyone goes nuts. There's festivals every single day, it feels like. But I don't know what it's going to be like this summer. It's very strange. It's very
Yeah.
strange, but things are starting to open up here. How has all that COVID stuff been going down in Jackson?
Well, I've learned something. My introvert self is perfectly happy with never leaving the house.
Right, right.
Like you've been to my house, so it's like, oh, let me just go hang out on the back porch. All right, I'm good for like 4 hours. Like I've just been hidden. It's not been that bad because I think we actually did shelter in place, and the majority of people did go hide right away.
Right.
So yet I think
Yeah.
there's still going to be some craziness, and here's the thing: is I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get my family sick, and I don't want to lose the ones I love, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear. I think I use that exact phrase. I've been using that exact phrase these past few days. Not out of the woods just yet. And
Yeah,
I think that's right. We're still watching it. People, it's this whole time it's been like real time analysis and reactions, and it's crazy because everyone's got different data models that they're using for this and this and this and this, and like every day there's new graphs and all these things and all these terminologies, and everyone's a data scientist now, you know, and or at least like are supposed to be data scientists who can like understand these modeling and what's real and what's not. And
well, the thing
we're
is
figuring it out, man.
everything is like in slow motion. Is what my analogy. It's like especially at work, it's been nonstop. There's never been a single moment to catch your breath,
Hmm.
but the world just seems to be moving in this slow motion that's taking like what used to seem like years is like weeks.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's the other way around.
Yeah. I was
A
gonna
week
say,
feels like a year because it's like the news cycle is just so overwhelming that it's just like, I need to stop this. I can't deal with
yeah,
this.
dude, I just stopped watching or looking at the news at a certain point. I just was watching comedies or like YouTube videos, or like I would start going down going down the
Mm.
rabbit hole of mythology or history and all these things, like just trying to learn something, or like watching nature documentaries. After a while, once I sheltered in place like fully, and
Uh,
I've been pretty much I didn't shelter in place for like, well, it was like I think it was only like a week or something, but it's been 12 weeks, 13 weeks, save one. Like it's been, it's been quite some time. And for a while, like, I don't know, it changed. It's definitely an interesting experience, but there's only so much you can do once you do that, right? Like once you know that, okay, here I am, I'm taking all these precautions. So why torture myself every day watching this news of stuff that I can't control when I'm doing all I can do, you know, going,
yeah,
when you go to a
sometimes it's
populated
not
area, you wear a
more.
mask. When you go, I mean, when I'm going off in the river and I'm just like outside, I don't know. The whole masks, where to wear them, and when you should and when it isn't. It's like there's so much conflicting data and everyone's saying things and like, no, there's a consensus. It's like, wait, when? That's when has there been consensus on anything this whole time? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Everyone's just doing the
I
best
just
they can.
always I, I just stay away. Like it's crazy. I've become just the total shut in. So, like the last day we went out to eat, we went for breakfast at Taco Bell. The
Hmm.
day Taco Bell was like, "All right, no more inside service," and we're like,
Right.
"What? What's going on here?" Okay, but I gotta say, and I got crazy, and she'll probably squeal with delight back there. But since this has happened, Sybil has just, I'm like, all right, feed me. And what we have done is we've gone to just going to this farmer's market
Oh,
that
nice.
is like locally sourced, like what they can get and stuff. We're going out to our favorite butcher that's like an hour outside of town. And we're being very thoughtful of what we buy and what we cook. And she's just like, we go once every 2 weeks, and she just keeps me fed for the 2 weeks. She's
Wow.
like, "Oh, what about this?" I'm like, "Look, just go get food. Get food.
What?
I don't care. Just get the
You
food."
have my undying trust. Please,
Yeah,
just make it.
just
Yeah,
get the food.
but wait, that's interesting though. That like you're is it so it's like local farmers and stuff. Then you're getting all your produce from, or at
Well,
least like now some of your produce. Or
I think it's still coming through Cisco, a lot of it, but like the milk we've got is actually out of a farm in Mississippi.
oh, nice.
The butter's different and everything. Although I gotta say, I know you're a vegetarian, right? No,
No,
no, that was Mike. That was the
Mike's, yeah,
vegetarian.
yeah.
See, I love a good steak. So there's actually my butcher shop, the Flora Butcher, is like Wagyu. So it's like the high end beef. And it's just so delicious. I love
Huh.
cooking steaks and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And so, but you know how like people are like, oh, I want a ribeye. Instead of getting that, we'll get like tri tip or there's like so many different types and actually cut it into stuff and use it like multiple times.
Yeah, yeah, multi-use. I mean
Uh-huh.
that I think that's good. The more things have multiple lifespans, it's just more it's more economical.
Yeah.
It's more efficient. It's more ecologically. It's what I don't
Yeah.
know. There's so much waste, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's it's funny. We've actually gone crazy on that too because we planted the garden. The garden looks absolutely gorgeous. But so we've been taking our garden, cutting up our garden, using some of the scraps to go into broth for chicken soup and stuff like that, taking the rest and actually doing a compost bin out in the backyard.
Hmm.
So it's like eating
Nice.
fresh food. I've actually lost about 20
I
pounds
was gonna
since we've
say.
been.
I was gonna say if you start switching to like some local produce, you probably start feeling a million times better.
Oh,
And
I do.
yeah,
It's been amazing. It has been absolutely amazing, the difference. I feel so much healthier. But I was going to say something though. You did what I always do in interviews.
what's that?
You always start talking, but you never go through introductions or explain.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't. I've been saying that. I always like, should I explain them? Should I, or is it better if they explain it? They're like, so, tell me about yourself, Ryno. Like, how'd you get in this business? What
Yeah.
business?
Well, and the thing is we've probably talked what 4 or 5 times at this point in time.
Yeah,
We've come out. You've hung out at the house. We've ate dinner together. So like, it's just a natural conversation. It's like, oh, there's my friend again.
yeah. I mean, if people are interested, the link to your show and like all the little bits of information is in the description. I figure people can decrypt it, but I don't know. Do you find there's value in that? You think, or are you saying that it doesn't really matter? I don't know.
I'm saying it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter because I feel the conversation is always the most important thing.
Right.
Like my theory has always been start with hello and kind of go from there and see where the
Right.
conversation leads you because whenever you try to pre-plan or pre-script it, that's always where you like run into these dead ends.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's more free form, like freestyle. Because some people, I'll bring people on. This is the 28th time, and I've been enjoying these teleconference Cullahcasts. I don't. They're probably not as they're not as probably intimate, obviously, and you probably can't connect as much. But it's so much easier to set up. Oh my god, it's so much easier for me to set up. Just like, okay, camera and a button and a click, boom. Okay, here we go. Where before I'd have to set up multiple cameras and like multiple microphones and route them and do gain staging, like, and it only would be every once in a while. So I have to like tear it down, put it back, tear it down, put it back constantly. And there are worse things in the world to do, but it's intensive. And And I've had some people I've like, what are we gonna talk about? What do you want to talk about? And it's like, I don't know. Like,
Let's go
I
with it.
know who you are
But
and you're interesting, and let's just chat. Like, what more is there to do? What more is there to talk about? I don't know.
yeah. Well, on the setting up stuff, it's kind of difficult, and I think you're right. And it's interesting how you've moved so quickly to the online, but I love the simplicity. The whole thing I've always believed in is fuck it, do it live.
Hmm.
If you screw up, just take it and go on and not worry about it. But I don't know. I've gotten lazy in my old age, and like it's like, oh, you need to set up all this stuff. Well, shit. Can I just sit there in the corner and watch?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
uh,
it's a part of the whole process, and yeah, the transitioning online. I mean, I had some of this stuff like already prepared, like set up, but I'm trying to do it way more now, and I don't see, even though things are starting to open up, and I feel like okay, I'm just starting to pick up some steam on like doing regular live streams and things. And part of me is only like, wait, no, let's keep shelter in place because I'm just starting to do this. I'm starting to see the online like world, which I don't know. I've always been online. I've always been engaged in online, but when it comes to like live streaming performances, that's been pretty new, and
yeah,
that's something that's really is kind of a challenge at the beginning of when it all started. It still is now, but I'm starting to feel more comfortable with it. It's so strange, like just being in front of a webcam with like no one around, and like my roommate and my neighbors downstairs and like and all and I don't know, just and you see the audience in a way but not really, and they you can't really feed off them
mhm,
the way that I've been used to in a performance setting, like in a music venue or something. So it's
mhm.
just totally different, and I have to find a different headspace, and like completely different. I have to approach it completely differently. Some of the performance is still the same, right? And playing the songs are kind of still the same, but it's a whole new challenge that I'm excited about and ready. I have some more plans for it, and I honestly, even if things started opening up anytime soon, which it's unclear how still now when a tour is even possible, because every state is different, and who knows if
Yeah,
there's going to be like I'm concerned about like booking a whole nother tour and then it all being canceled again, and like
yeah.
that I would just be I already man, it's so much. It is a lot of emailing and messaging, and there's a lot of work into. Instead, I'm the only one doing it, like setting it all
Mhm.
up and doing everything. So it's a lot of hours that are, that was probably the more devastating part of this whole thing when it comes to like planning and losses and stuff in the music in my business was just the amount of hours spent booking that just boom just all fell, it all just got
Yeah.
canceled. It's like, whoa, what I could have done so many more, but I have these contacts, I can
You
I
can
didn't
build on
lose,
it.
yeah, I didn't lose like too much, so that's not.
Well, I still think about John Worthy. He said 300 shows last year on the road. And to go from
Jesus.
that kind of schedule to not being able to tour at all
Yeah.
anymore would have to be just like devastating and such a change. And
Yeah.
I want to say what I find really interesting about the live streams that you've been doing is your confidence in figuring out how to play some of the harder tracks live. Like some of the tracks where you have like to loop it and actually build on it and stuff like that. Like B9 to Thrive wouldn't be an easy track to play live, but you're taking tracks like that, and I see where you're actually doing the loop, you're building on it in the board, and actually getting from where you can just do like an acoustic performance to more of a full band performance on your own. And I think that discovery and that journey has been really interesting. And I think the live audience on the internet has been perfect for you to explore that route because like you said, you can
Yeah.
sit there and spend the time to set it up once, and then from there you kind of practice. uh,
Yeah, dude,
it-
I totally agree, man. That's actually something that is part of like why I'm more excited about the live stream, because like this is stuff that I've been telling myself I needed to do for so long. I'm like, you need to learn all of your music. like I have 100 or almost 200 songs at this point now with this last album, and maybe 30 of them I can play on a guitar or on a piano, You know,
Mhm.
like the rest I have to have a band, or I have to have some sort of thing to like for the to do the song justice. Of course, I could probably come up with versions, you know, on the guitar or something, or you know, I could probably interpret things, but I really want to do that looping thing. And when I first started live streaming with it and doing it, and just now I can see a difference, and I'm still learning. And so B9 to Thrive is definitely a goal, to be able to do something, to actually do the full B9 to Thrive and have the songs actually flow, like, and build them live, and like actually be an enjoyable thing from start to finish, and then like not make any mistakes and do all that. That's just, I'm just constantly like, what did you say about just being out there and just something to the effect of, you're saying something like failing out in the open. And I think
Yeah.
that's really what my live streams have been, like, just constant, like, oh, I'm gonna try this and maybe it'll work, and then like halfway through I'm like, this is not working. Like, this is, I should not have done this. Or like, maybe I should have practiced this a couple times more. So now I have like regular live streams every Friday. So tomorrow after your show, right? So
Yeah.
everyone tune into Ryno The Bearded, the OO show, right? Tomorrow, internet
Yeah.
Creative Commons. See, now we're doing the descriptions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The internet Creative Commons internet radios, but it's all Creative Commons, right? All types
Yep.
of Creative Commons,
Yep.
and yeah, and then come back over, and that sounds like a great Friday night to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I actually got to say, I'm kind of happy that you're doing the show. You're doing your show on Friday nights, because now that I've gotten old, I don't feel as much pressure to do it all night long. To where I'm like, oh, I know Cullah's live. I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of the night off, get some food, play some video games, and relax. Because one of the things that's happened with me in the lockdown, this has become my workspace.
Yeah,
Like this spot, I am in this spot for probably 60 to 80 hours a week right now. It's like my work's here, my hobbies are here. So every chance I get it to where I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I want to get out of this chair. And like at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, I've usually been in this chair for 13 hours at that point in time, or in this spot where I'm just like, yep, you know. And I love working from home, but it's having those spaces between your work and your personal
yeah.
space overlap and come just
Yeah,
it's difficult.
you're not the first person to say that too, and which is making me think of to not do it on Friday night, because it's like, I'm like, I wonder if everyone's so sick of being on a computer by Friday night. Like, I was thinking about it more like, oh, Friday night is like when people want to just like unwind, and or like or something. I had a couple requests for Fridays, but now now that I've been doing it, I'm wondering about Friday nights,
Well,
or whether it's the best time, or I don't know. It's
I
just something
like
that's
Friday nights. It's been Fridays have usually been my go-to time
yeah.
for, well, actually, 8.5 years.
Yeah, did you ever not do Friday?
No, no. Well, actually, it started out as a pre-recorded daily that I was putting together. Then I started just doing a pre-recorded Friday night. Then it's just been Friday night since 11/11/11.
Whoa.
Yes.
Did you do
That
that on
was
purpose?
it, the universe just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just go where the universe takes you.
So it's been so how long have you had the OO show, like, in one way or in one form or another?
The official Friday night show is that 11/11/11. I probably did almost 2 years worth of stuff before that. I actually started out with No Agenda.
Hmm.
They were Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak, and their model was open source. It's like, take our stuff and make stuff with it,
Yeah.
and take our stuff and do stuff. And so I was living out in the middle of nowhere, living out in the country, and I was like, oh, I like this podcast. I want to share it with my friends. It's a 2.5 hour podcast. It's really hard to get somebody to listen to something that's 2.5 hours. Let me take little 3-minute clips so I can share it to the
Mm.
friends.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, through that, I got to know Adam Curry from MTV. He actually he's funnily been one of the biggest supporters and actually helped me get where I am. It's weird to say that about Adam Curry, but it's the truth. But I started out making videos for them. Then one week I was on vacation from work. It snowed in Mississippi, and somebody opened up this folder that was the OSDSC, or Open Source Daily Source Code. And it was just like, okay, drop music in here and it'll play in order of what dropped. Well, I got in there and I started dropping tracks in there, and people are like, oh, I like what you're playing. And it just kind of grew from that. It was sitting around bored out in the country, started playing music for people, and people are like, oh, I kind of like that. Although the song that really brought them in was the first time I played Uncle Fucker.
Oh, yeah, I remember you playing that when we were visiting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good one. So you got you fell in love with internet DJing then, or just DJing in general? Have you ever done DJs like DJing with, I don't know, with decks, or like with CDs, or with tapes, or even like when you ever go to a party with a family or something, or for some any strange reason your places, do you ever
Nope.
be in charge of that? Just you had the internet DJ. Did you ever do it as a kid, make mixtapes and stuff?
Yes, I would always make the mixtapes. I actually had it perfectly set out. My old roommate's CD changer, he had a 5-disc CD changer.
Oh, nice.
That I would actually go in and program the disc change for the exact 45 minutes. And I would do the record and play. And it would actually go through the entire 45-minute, change discs like 4 times, and make a 45-minute cassette for my car.
40. Wow, that's is that the max amount that can be on a cassette, or?
I think it was. I may be off on the time, but yeah, I would basically plan it out to match each side perfectly, and I do that. But no, I usually don't. I usually don't try to like play my music to everybody else, my DJ music, because it's so hipster in a way, and it's so like it's hard introducing people to new music.
Yeah.
When somebody starts listening to the music, once they've heard like 5 tracks, they're going to be like, "Oh, I want to hear something I know."
Yeah.
So
not
when
everyone,
it comes to music,
but a lot of people.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, if you want to listen to what I'm playing, I'll play it for you. But other than that, I'm just like, I don't try to force it. Although, thanks to people like you, suddenly people are going, "Wait a minute, this is kind of good. Kind of enjoying this."
Yeah, there's a great number of amazing musicians out there. It's like there's no shortage of it. There's no shortage, or there's actually an abundance of just insane talent. And now more than ever, we have access to this incredible creative potential of everyone, and has the abilities to just be able to create so easily, that I think it's important how we share it. Sharing is just as sacred as creating, I think, in a lot of ways.
Well, and one thing I've always said is people can go out there and create the most beautiful thing on the planet, but if no one sees it, what does it matter?
Yeah. If a tree falls in the forest, does it slap? Yeah, we got Hollenbach on Twitch says Ryno's doing an awesome job for a lot of years.
Yeah. See, I've actually gotten drunk with a Hollenbach in Cologne, Germany, and Amsterdam.
There you go. Those are good places to get drunk. Beer? Yeah. I'm assuming you drank some beers. Or some schnapps. Yes. Schnapps?
No, it was beers. No, actually, it was funny. Louis Lingenbaums, who you probably should try to get on for an interview. What had happened was we planned a show in Amsterdam for the Double O for my podcast. The Amsterdam Mac Hollenbach actually put it together. And we had 4 bands from all over Europe show up in Amsterdam. It was Vienna Ditto, Emerald Park, Water Pistol, and Louis Ling and the Bombs. Then we traveled from there down to Cologne, Germany. for the Cologne Commons, which was a Creative Commons music festival there.
Oh, cool.
Hollenbach got shit drunk on vodka. And we locked him up in the van. But that was another great show that Louis Sling and the Bombs of Vienna was there. And what I find is hilarious as American, when you get change, you just hold on to your change because it's quarters, it's dimes, it's nickels. It really doesn't amount to anything. Well, over after being in Europe for 2.5 weeks, I had all this change that ended up being like €1 and €2 change.
Yeah.
So it was actually a substantial amount of change. Well, after the concert, we got back to the hotel and there was a little kid area of bean bags and a vending machine that sold beer right next to it. So I had all this change and I just started going plunk, 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 and just vending machine beers. And we sat in the hotel lobby in the bean bags drinking beers from a vending machine all night long.
That's a great experience.
It is.
Yeah, you gonna go back? When's the next time you go? Well, not anytime soon, but
Whenever I can.
yeah. Is there are there more festivals, Creative Commons festivals out there still?
I don't know. See, my problem is I've dropped back on how much I participate and how much I push, just because like my career has taken off to where the show is more my fun. It's more my release. It's more my drink beer and kick back on a Friday night.
Right.
Yes. Which there used to be shows on Friday night that they'd make fun of me because after like being live for 5.5 hours, I'd pass out. And I'd forget to turn off the stream. It's like, what? Hey, I was here for 6 hours. What do you expect?
That's OG, man. That's dedication.
Mm-hmm.
That's dedication. That's talk about failing out in the open. Just passing out on air. So what has it always been an audio one? Because I know that when we were there, we were on Twitch. And have you? As I saw that you were on Twitch, do you try to do video ones, or does it never matter? It's just easier to do audio. You don't have to set up anything. You don't have to worry about cameras or.
It's easier to do audio. I've tried doing some video stuff before, but I just like the simplicity of audio. Yeah. I can sit here with my beer and drink and not worry. And although I don't have a drink, I should have made a margarita. If a margarita magically appeared, that would be awesome. I'm just seeing if a margarita will somehow magically appear. I don't know if that'll work. We'll find out here in a minute. But so I could sit there and just do that. And plus, when I really started, I lived out in the middle of nowhere. My bandwidth was shit. I didn't have barely any connection.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious. It was actually, I would sit around with my friend, actually, and I have to give a shout out to Captain Negative. He actually lost his dad last night. He had dementia and it finally just caught up with him and he finally passed. And it's really sad, but me and him, he would come down the hill and we'd sit in front of my laptop with my mic hanging out and we'd drink beer and tell stories. And it was like the odd couple to where I was the city boy from South Florida and he was the country boy that lived out in rural Mississippi entire life.
Yeah, and I think that's nice how people can bond and connect over it. It's interesting doing these more often too, and just even just it's just conversations broadcasted, right? It's just real snapshots into real conversation, and you're talking about like real raw stuff too, right? Where you're talking about just doing it for 5 hours straight. Like after a while, I go and I'll play a song in the middle of a live stream, and like when I'm done with the song, I'll come and like sit down and like try and talk to people and be like I'll just be like my head will be like rushing. I'll just be like, oh, like I have to like calm down, and then I do that a few times, and then it just gets tiring. I'm like, oh man, it's just so many different things to keep track of. So I think you're onto something about the simplicity thing, because the video element adds a lot, I think, to the experience of who's watching and experiencing the entertainment. I think it's pretty valuable, at least for, I don't know. I'm definitely trying to get as better at it as possible. But man, it's a whole nother layer of complexity. Like,
it definitely is, and I'm glad I don't have it. I just like the simplicity. I flip the switch. I have my audio. I've actually gotten the whole process so lined out over the years.
yeah, I bet.
Although I need to update everything. I need to go through and fix all my feeds because I'm just lazy and I don't want to do it. Actually, yeah, I admit it.
What do you mean feeds? Fix your feeds?
Well, like over the years, some of my podcast feeds have broken, and like I need to get on Stitcher, and I need to get my podcast on Spotify, and I just need to get my show out there in more spots and do all that work and update my website and all that. And it's just like,
yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot to maintain and to like keep up with the thing that, especially if you've been in for that long. It's like things you have your audience, and if you're happy with your audience, if they're, I don't know, if you're happy with where you at, then if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. And I do find it funny talking about the audience. The reason I actually always started out going for so long is I would actually start at 6 p.m. at U.S. Central Time, but at that time it was midnight over in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually get a bunch of listeners over in Europe that would tune in and start listening.
Yeah.
So, but as the night would go on, suddenly the New Yorkers would start joining, and then the Central, and then I'd have people out on the West Coast joining. So there was always a different category of people that got to join the show at different times. And the amazing thing is, just because somebody was there to talk to and play music that was enjoying what I was doing, it's like, okay, well, somebody's there. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes too. Like, it's been like the same people are here. It's been 3 hours, but like there's still people here. But like at what point, sometimes I'm like, I still got some in me, but at the same time, it's like, it's our, how do you keep going or do you have a lot of time? I think for me, it's just like, it's just been in the moment. I decide like what I'm feeling, like if I could go any longer, or if it's going to be quality. But that's a good point. And that's part of why I'm like, I don't know, 8 PM on a Friday. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow. But I'm thinking about, put like, I don't know, just for that very reason, like 8 o'clock is too late for anyone in Europe. Like already, like they're already like, some people might be night owls and they can stay up for a little bit, or maybe maybe I saw there was a Dubliner in Twitch chat. Like if they're Dublin in London, maybe, like they can catch the tail end of it, but dang. Yeah, I don't know. It's something to figure out. I didn't send out a survey or anything. That's what someone recommended me to do, to send out a survey. And I'll probably do that and see if I can get some results and do it and see what days and what times work better. Because right now I'm literally just shooting in the dark. Just be like, I don't know, Friday night. Because that's what I like the Friday night, because I don't feel as bad if I'm making a lot of noise with my neighbors or my roommate. Or my roommates will be out with their significant others or somewhere else doing, preoccupied. So it's a good time for me as a, Friday night, because I can unwind. And I've been doing that too, man. I'm not too much of a drinker, but these Friday nights have brought some whiskey back into my life. It's nice. It really, and especially when I know that I'm going to be like having 3 hours of failing out in the open. It's like, it feels like,
it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, it really just loosens it a little bit, and it does take pressure off for sure. I feel way less pressure to like be the best thing, to do the best things that I can do always, constantly, and I'm always worrying about the camera or this or that or this or this. There's plenty of things to be worried about, and at this point now that I have a level of familiarity with everything, that it's just, at this point, it's just, now I need to just put in the reps to get closer to putting on more enjoyable performances, because that's the, That's the tough part in the learning process, is because I look at it, I'll be like, that's not
Well,
good. That
it's
wasn't good.
all about putting in the reps. You said it right there. It's about putting in the reps. It's about doing the thing
Yeah.
repeatedly over and over again. It's about doing it time and time again. And like, yeah, I feel like what I'm doing here is easy, but it's because I've just put in the reps and I do it to where it's like, okay, I got this click and I got click, 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 and I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, Casey Smart, yeah. So we missed the in-person shows too. I got to say that's one thing for me is because everything I've always done has always been on the internet. The in-person stuff always terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like there's this introvert in me that just loves hiding behind the scene and loves hiding behind my
Sure.
keyboard. And I just know every time there's like people, I'm like, oh, there's people. Ah, and I just want to go run and hide.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. That's part of why all my stuff's been on the internet too. Until very recently, only a few years ago, I'm like, all right, I gotta face this demon. Although, I mean, I'm pretty balanced with my introversion and my extroversion. Like, I'd like to think, at least, because I've always enjoyed groups of people and like and partying and being social, and I actually, going to being part of a community and going to different events and that are like the cool spots to go to, and like knowing some people, gatekeepers in certain cult like networks here in Milwaukee, to try to get into certain groups and communities and stuff. And that's really what I've been like going after. And and my plan this year was to have a van so I could start doing that in multiple cities and start learning all that stuff, because it's valuable. But I'm not gonna lie, when everything was canceled, I had a big sense of relief. It's like, in a weird way, like I've been working so much towards this, and I knew it was so pivotal to my career to like be able to go on tours and be able to do that and make, because I found I really experienced the value of those in-person connections, because that's what music has its place internally. Like, we can all feel like, everyone listens to music, I'm sure, with some headphones, and have experienced that, or in your car alone, or with some headphones, and you're in your own world, and you can experience the music and really get teleported to somewhere amazing inside of yourself and in your own imagination. But there's this other element that's like really, really primal too, that's super important, that I've experienced firsthand as a performer now these past few years, is how it brings people together. Like, how people come together and they have a collective experience where it really transcends. It can be so invigorating, and it can be so just healing, or helpful, or there's so many benefits, and that people have described to me of like these experiences that they have. And nice. Wow, magic, man.
Oh, that's
Magic
magic.
Mississippi. Yeah, man. Magic Mississippi.
Mhm. But no, I gotta say, I actually went with my friend and saw my first ever Widespread Panic show earlier this year.
Oh yeah.
And you want to talk about an audience being connected to the band? It was just like, wow.
I
I
bet,
like
yeah.
seeing them, and just the way that people just hang off these notes, that this band's in the 7 minute long jam, and
Right.
this entire audience is just like, boom, and just coming down together, waiting for the drop. And it's like when the beat drops, and
Yeah, there's
it's
something
quite
special about
amazing.
that, man. There's something special about that, and I think I fully experienced that my last album release, which is, I was really disappointed this year from everything, to not have a live album release here in Milwaukee, because the last couple shows that I've done, they're like really planned ahead of time and like really put some energy into it. And being to be coming back from a West Coast tour, coming back to Milwaukee with a big bang, and with hopefully the best show ever and stuff, and everything's just canceled. And that's what I just it was disappointing, because I learned so much last time when I played this venue, Cactus Club, here in Milwaukee, and I saw like groups of people from so many people I didn't even know, and like, but I did know people a lot of people came to just for it, but it wasn't really for me. And that's what was the most eureka moment, was like they came for each other. Like they came so they could hang with other people. Like the way that they found an excuse to do it, and it wasn't, a halfway decent way to spend a Friday night. Is, it's not going to be shit, at least I hope. But like that's all people really need. That's all people really need, is like this place where people can I don't know. It was a really beautiful thing. I really was moved, and I really had an insight, one of those moments where it's just a eureka moment of like, oh, that whole music brings people together. That's not just something people say. That's here. I'm experiencing this, and so I there's something about the in-person meetings, and at least there's something about that is super. But especially now, people are afraid. Especially now, I mean, I go out when I'm going for walks and stuff. I'll still take extra caution when I can move another 2 or 3 feet in the other direction to make sure we don't cross paths, as much. But we get Pretty Beggar on Twitch saying much love. What's going on, man?
Oh yeah, that was actually a lot of fun having him come down, and he did such a good job of setting up the sound for that, because that recording is absolutely gorgeous.
He's like a multi he's like a multi-tool as a person. He's like he saved a lot of the shows on the tour just by being able to, I'd be going around trying to make sure, okay, where are all the musicians? Where's everything going? Are we in the right place? Who's the person we need to talk to? What's going on here? Like try and make sure the people are showing up, doing all this stuff. And he was able to help with the sound almost the whole time. And it was I had never experienced that, where it's like, oh, I could trust someone to do this. It's like, wow, amazing. So it's so much nicer when you have people you can rely on and trust to do that. And we were in Houston and we played at this Super Happy Fun Land. And this place is like a community run organization, and the sound, I don't know, they're all volunteers running it, and there was not a drop of enthusiasm by any of the people that were working there or anything, and they took a huge cut. And it's a community thing, so it wasn't that it is what it is. I was just happy to play somewhere, but Michael just took over the soundboard. He just went and was just basically told the sound guy to leave because he wasn't doing anything, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna actually do this, so please leave. And he did. And he made it way better.
Your last album release party that you had last year, I still think it was funny that John Worthy from John Worthy and the Bends, a couple weeks later, he's like, yeah, remember when you were on, I was on the show and I was talking to you and you told me about this dude Cullah that was releasing albums every year on his birthday. I'm like, yeah. And you said he was in Milwaukee, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I just saw his album release party. He's like, damn, the dude's good. But it was just so random that this musician from Nashville happened to randomly be in Milwaukee and caught your live show for the last album release party.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. I totally forgot about that. Those weird synchronicities are always so strange, for how such a small, how we're all connected like that. And that's what there is. It's something about the music, man. It's like magic spells, casting magic spells out there, and people, it changes things. Especially when people come together, the thing, I think that's magic, man. If there's ever is magic, that's what it is. I think it's music.
I gotta say, my favorite things about being at live show is always the audience interaction.
Yeah.
Is seeing that and just seeing where that audience is just completely hanging off the words and just completely into it. It's just, it brings something new to the experience, and it just adds this whole extra layer.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things I've been practicing, and why it's so interesting on these live streams, trying to figure that out too. Like Tales of Gore is in the YouTube now. He says he said you're the reason why you found my music, and he's been popping in on streams pretty often. At least I see Tales of Gore all the time. I see, and it's good to see it every single time. And that, so it's just like this. There's an audience element of things on live stream, but it's a different thing because when I'm on a stage and I'm up there, I always feel like I don't know. I'm either trying to tell a joke or trying to say something, like tell a story, or I don't know. On the tour in December, I was listening to a lot of different like storytellers and stuff, and I was really in this place of really just trying to tell stories and just try and open up to the audience and stuff, but when you're on a stage, it's like you have some sort of like command over like you're elevated. You're on a stage. You're like literally on a pedestal. So you can be loud and you're the center of attention if you can control it. People usually give you a shot. Usually, yeah. They'll usually give you a shot to see like, all right, what is this guy made of? What's going to happen here? What kind of music is going to happen? How interesting is this really? And in most places, like, if they're really polite audiences, they'll give you plenty of shots, because most people go to a show to be entertained. Like they don't go to, well, I'm sure there are people that go to shows just to be like, ugh, this is terrible or whatever. I'm sure there are those people, but most people are there to have a good time. And like, I'm realizing that it's almost like like I was saying, I'm just this conduit. I'm not even the reason. Like the more I realize, like, at least, and I'm no expert at performance at this stage, but what I've learned so far is that like, a lot of times the audience just wants permission to just be, like, to have permission to just like do to just like be allowed to like to listen and to relax and to like be given the like security and permission, like this is going to be a fun time. And there are certain ways that performers can communicate that stuff, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to learn, what this whole thing is, how to work do the crowd work, like to a degree. Like, it's funny, man, it's fucking hilarious. Like musicians get away with being not funny. Like, yeah. Because they go up there and they can say a joke that's barely funny at all. Like, not even a joke. Something that's just like an observation that's not even funny, but doesn't have to do with music, and then everyone in the audience will laugh like it's some fucking hilarious joke, like it's a stand-up. You know what I mean? It's so crazy. Or at least that's how I've experienced. Like, there's a low bar for musicians to be funny.
What I find so interesting, and this, I first noticed this because I used to live in Florida in college towns and bigger cities. And in college towns and bigger cities, bands were able to go in and play their tunes and their music. But when I moved to Mississippi, and I remember when I went to Nashville, all they wanted was covers. And there's two different types of audiences out there. There's an audience that actually goes out that's like, oh, I want to hear some new music. I want to hear something interesting. I want some band to talk to me. And then there's the different crowd that's just like, I just want to go out and get white girl drunk. Whee! And like if you go to Nashville and you go out there on the strip in Nashville, that's what 95% of the bars are, is people there that aren't caring about the music that's being played. They just want to hear the covers that they've heard 1,000 times.
It's like a karaoke city.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's one thing. I've never was very good at covers. I've been learning some more recently and releasing them for patrons. And also it's two birds with one stone situation, learning something for these virtual serenades, but then releasing them just for patrons because people request them, and it's a way to make some side money on doing things, and also release some exclusive content for patrons. But I think there's a time and a place. There's always a good place for a cover, and like there's so much music that I love that I like playing that I think, but I agree, man. There is something about that that's just, there are different audiences, and some people just really don't care about I mean, sure, you might have met someone who says, "Oh yeah, I'm not really into music." It's like, what do you mean you're not into music? I don't know. Maybe I'm obviously super biased, but it blows my mind where it's like you don't, or if someone says like not into music, but I don't like music. So I remember I've met one person that said they don't like music. Just like what? Like do you
What's
don't?
wrong with you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, what happened? Are you a human? Are you a decoy? And talking to some people on the podcast about decoys, about like, have you ever been duck hunting or deer hunting? You know, there's all these, or even
Yeah.
like a scarecrow or something. Like you can always put a decoy out of an animal, and the animal might actually think that that's another one of their species, and they'll go and get fooled. Whereas if there's some higher alien intelligence that is aware of human existence, like how easy would it be for them to set up a decoy for
Well,
of humans? And who are they? If there was any decoys, who would they be?
here's what I just want to say for decoys. It was someone I knew of. I did not know them directly, but apparently they were on one of the videos from like the 90s of people doing something stupid. To where basically they were driving down the road and they looked off and they're like, "Hey, there's a deer over there. Let me grab my rifle." So they pulled their rifle out, shot the deer once, said, "Huh, didn't go down." Shot it again. Didn't go down. Shot it a third time. And that's when the warden walks up and says, "You know, that's a fake deer you're shooting right there. You're not allowed to hunt from the road. Step out of the car."
Yeah, that's some Darwinism right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that yeah, the third time you think you get it, but I get your point that humans even get faked out by our own decoys of other animals.
Yeah.
So,
There was actually something I read that a park ranger was talking about in Yellowstone that there's an amazing crossover between the smartest bears and the dumbest humans when it comes to
oh,
garbage cans.
I bet, I bet, dude. That's actually I would love to see that. I would love to see that comparison. Because I bet you there's some pretty smart bears that can figure that shit out way faster than humans.
Yeah.
But then again, I
Actually,
don't know.
I've put some. We've got a bird feeder in the backyard, and
Oh,
now I'm
nice.
like watching the squirrels because the squirrels are crazy smart when it comes to that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
right. So if there were human decoys, have you think you've ever met one, or do you think who do you think would be a decoy if you were gonna guess anyone that comes to mind that might be a human decoy?
I, yes, there is one guy. He is a robot and he has no emotions. And I used to work with him, and he always joked, "He's like, no, he's not a human. He's a
Yeah.
robot." Actually, so this is how you know two people too long when you work in an office too long. When you're in the bathroom and you're doing your business at work and you hear somebody walk in, sit down, 3 seconds later, flush, get up, and go, and be like, "Oh, hey, that was him." It's just like he could somehow magically poop in less than 5 seconds. Like that's
Hmm.
actually, I want to tell you, I
That
just realized
seems.
that my pooping habits have changed from being in the office to being at the house.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like when you're in the office and you got to poop, it's like, oh, I'm getting up away from my desk. I'm gonna go here, hang. What's on social media? Let me look at this real quick. Oh, hey, that's funny. But when you're at the house, it's just like, okay, I just need to get in and out. I'm not hanging out there. That's why do I need to hang out there? I'm not hiding from anyone.
Yeah. I remember when I was working in office for a little bit. That's yeah. The bathroom was like some sacred time away where you could look at your phone without any judgment. You know,
Hmm.
otherwise you'd be on your phone and be like, you'd be like, I know people can see me, but I'm still on my phone. But that's okay. Everything's compiling.
Well, I still find it funny that I lived in Gainesville, Florida for 7 years. And
Mm,
at that time, I worked at Circuit City in Gainesville, Florida. And that middle stall at that was my most used toilet in the 7 years I was there.
that's something.
Mhm. Well, because I always came in first thing in the morning. I was the first guy there, so the janitors had just got done, so it had the nice clean blue water.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. You get it
Yeah,
all to yourself.
and I just had my first morning caffeine, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing when you have regular poops. Like when it's regular and predictable. I think that's a sign of good digestive health and good just overall. Yeah, like I that happens to me too. I have morning constitutions, like where it's pretty much I get up, I really have to pee in the morning. That's usually what happens. Usually I get up, I have to pee, and I'm like fine, and I stay in bed until it becomes too annoying, and then I go pee, and then when I get back, because my toilet is downstairs, so I have to go downstairs to do it. So by the time I go all the way down but up, my body has already like started moving things, and then by the time I get back up, I have to go back down again, and then poop, and yeah,
yeah.
and I know that's good when that happens, because it's like, oh, because this happens every day, and it's a regular thing, and they're usually when it's regular,
Yeah.
it's usually more healthy, I feel like.
So two things, as I've been watching my weight, peeing, you'll lose more weight peeing than you will pooping. But when you fart, you actually gain weight.
What? How does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yes, because what happens is a fart is methane gas. And methane gas is lighter in air, so it rises. So when you expel that gas is lighter, so you actually get more dense at that point, and you become a slightly bit heavier when you fart.
I don't know if that's true, but that sounds great. I want that to be true. If you lose weight, it's probably very negligible, but
Oh, it is,
that's still something. I hear
but
that
it
though.
well. The reason I know that is Mark Rober. He's one of the YouTube guys that does. He was a NASA engineer and worked on the Mars
Oh
rovers,
well, if he says
and
it,
now
then it's probably
he
true.
does. Huh?
If that's what he said, it's probably true. He probably knows more than me. That's for damn sure.
Well, what's funny is it was his series of videos he started making from going into lockdown. He's like, oh, well, I'm in lockdown. I can't go film any more YouTube videos. This is how I'm making my money. So here's
Mm,
a weekly science experiment for the kids at school.
yeah, weigh yourself
And
before and after all your farts.
yeah, yeah.
Have you been keeping up with any of the new aeronautical space developments of like the different ships that they're doing, and the new manned mission that they're doing on the 27th? Well, yeah, like yeah, SpaceX is sending up two astronauts. Well, they're going to do a test mission, I think, with them first, but they're going to the space station
See, I gotta say,
in 6 days.
when it comes to space, before I die, I want to make it to space. Even if I die in the process of going to space, I want to, at one point in time, be able to fly up and look down on the Earth and
Yeah,
actually watch the blackness come in, and you
yeah,
see the picture. I want to, at one point in my life, have that perspective of looking down on this tiny marble.
yeah. I've heard. I think his name is Edgar Mitchell. He's one of like the OG American astronauts, and he started a whole institution because he had this incredible out of body like spiritual experience when he looked at the Earth. He's like one of the first people to have one of the first humans that probably has experienced that, physically, where they go out and they can see, they see the whole planet. That's got to be
Mhm.
fucking mind blowing, like
Yeah.
what that is, and how you know everyone's been inspired by the pale blue dot, right? Like the Carl Sagan,
Yeah.
poem or whatever it is the whole essay or whatever or poem that he wrote, which is beautiful. And I don't know, I've always been captivated by the cosmos and by all that stuff, and I think it's really inspiring and exciting that like humans are going back up there, because it's so disappointing. It's like what are we even doing here? I don't know, if we have the ability to do it, like why are we not why are we not doing cool shit? And
Well,
why are we just like doing all this nonsense that no one wants to do? I don't know. I just feel like,
because people don't want to trust in science.
yeah, there's something about that. Or maybe people don't want people to know that we're capable of really good, awesome things. Maybe it's easier.
I think so. Well, and you say that, but I do actually feel that's true. Is I think that sometimes it's easier for people to not let them know about the wonders that are out there as a form of control
Yeah.
to prevent people from imagining and going, "Oh my God, what about this?" Like I just watched the movie Paul again,
Is it
which is it's
is it the one with the alien
yeah.
with
Seth
the
Rogen
Seth Rogen?
plays the
Yeah, yeah.
alien, and it's
That's an
Scotty.
interesting movie.
Huh? Yeah. But he's got that church girl that he's like, oh, well, here's the cosmos.
Yeah.
You've been taught this, but here's the cosmos. The whole thing is so infinitely large and huge and amazing that to try to wrap everything up in a little story of this little ball to me is just no, there's too much else out there. It'd be an awful waste of space.
Yeah, I agree. I think stuff like going into space, humans going back into space, well, Americans at least, going back into space will at least I mean, there are still people who they go and they get pumped. There's thousands of people watching the test flights of these, or like just the engine tests. They'll do the engine test and everyone will be like, "Oh my god, they're gonna go into space!" Like these people are really, there are a lot of people who are fanatics about this because it's so exciting to them, and so people want to go to Mars. I think we should have a colony on the moon, and we should have like when was the space shuttle mission to when was Apollo 11 and 13? It was like 50 years ago. Like on like this fucking phone, this phone is probably 100 times faster. But probably that's probably not even 100. Probably like thousands of times
Yeah.
more processing power. Like this cell phone, its capacity to do calculations is far beyond what was even thought of as possible back then. Well, I'm sure people could think of it, but you know what I mean. Like we have there. It's not like we don't have the technology. We just don't have this like willpower. And I think it's what you said. It's like there's some sort of control. Like people, they want you to be mindless consumers and just be just just don't ask questions, just go to work and don't put up much of a fight. And we don't really want to, but it's not how I don't think humans are made for that. And it's not, I don't know. I'm happy to see things moving in the right direction again, at least, because they're also releasing they're building the James Webb Space Telescope.
Oh yeah.
Which is like, talk about being bigger and stronger and faster than the last one. This thing is going to be Hubble 2.0, and it's going to be able to look at the beginnings of the universe. Like we're able to decode this radiation and all this stuff of these like signatures of these, and be able to we'll be able to prove all these theoretical subatomic particles and whether or not they exist, and be able to get some evidence that we can decode and understand of the origins of the Big Bang and even before the Big Bang and shit. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know, that stuff is mind blowing to me, and it's like so encouraging and so inspiring. It's like,
Yeah. Well, it was what happened with the gravity waves they discovered the other year. It was in the last couple of years, just to look at the actual science of what they basically figured out is that if you shoot a laser in like 7 miles that way and have it come back, you can find gravity waves. And they're actually saying that they're like, well, if we can map the gravity waves, we can basically map the universe. And just being able to do that and actually know that level of detail. And it always amazes me, for as much as everyone feels we know, every day we go out there and prove ourselves wrong.
right.
That's always something more to know. There's always something bigger or smaller that is out there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like arrogance based off of fear or like insecurity or something. People like to project like they know everything, or that we're the best, or that humans have it all figured out now. Is the best it's ever been. We're the greatest of all time, and it's never gonna, But first of all, that's like, well, if we're the best now, then why are we even trying, right? And I think that's part of people's, maybe if you have that mentality, then you're never gonna strive to be anything better because you already think you're better.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's a recipe for. So we're talking about Darwinism, right? Like, if you have that mindset of like, hey, this is the greatest village I've ever made. We have the best warriors. We do anything. We don't have to worry. We don't have to keep up the rigor of constantly upgrading and constantly researching and learning and upgrading our techniques and all this and this and that. That's a recipe for, someone comes and invades and they can take over because they are putting in the work. Someone else, some other, and that's what I think. Like, if someone doesn't do it, someone's gonna, if everyone's not doing it, someone's gonna eventually come out and do it and blow everyone out of the water, because it's gonna be so obvious because it's gonna be so obviously superior. And I feel like that's what's happening with a lot of this technology of like SpaceX and Tesla. Is like, there's nothing like this. I think Elon Musk is obviously a visionary and amazing engineer, but like, there's nothing crazy. I mean, people think it's so crazy, but it's really not that crazy. Like, he's just saying reasonable things and speaking from a reasonable engineer standpoint of like, hey, if we have some smart people, we can figure out how to make better products, not based on how do we make the most money, but how do we solve these big
Well,
problems.
that's going to be one thing I'd say I've learned, and I've changed my viewpoint as I've gotten older in life, is when it comes to solving the big problems, I feel that unbridled capitalism has failed,
Wow.
and that people unfortunately get so interested and only care about the next quarter's profits that it's so hard to focus on, well, what can we do 10, 15, 20 years
Yeah.
down the road? And I think a lot of people lose that. And I think Musk, with what he's doing with SpaceX, is one of the few that is like saying, okay, I want to see what we can do 10, 20 years down the road. Because that's the exciting thing. Like, I'm older than you. I remember when first started seeing the internet and first starting
Yeah.
seeing the computers and stuff. Like, my first ever experience with the internet was in college. And now here we are. The simple 5-year-old can figure out how to set up and stream and give a message out to the world. And
Yeah. That's
yeah,
amazing. Just in 20 years or so, right? Like, what was the internet, and what state of the internet was it when you were in college? What, it was still
well,
dark. It was still ARPANET.
my first attempt at college was in '94.
94. Okay. Yeah. So
So
that
I remember getting our first dial up at that point in time.
28.8 K or less, or something.
28.8 and then the
Yeah.
56K. Well, and see, I talked about working at Circuit City. I actually used to work in the warehouse at Circuit City and sell electronics there. But
Oh,
I remember when the first Pentiums came out, when we were like, oh, this is a
Penny.
P66. We're like, oh my God, look at it.
66
it.
megahertz.
It's got 125 megabytes of RAM. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you believe how powerful this machine is? And then it's just like, nope. And it just keeps snapping up and going so much quicker.
Yeah. It's wild. It's wild, but and it, it's a beautiful thing though. Like, it is something. There's something feels really unprecedented about it. We talk about like, okay, well, humans, this arrogance of us like thinking we, just because we have this technology maybe better, but it's like, well, has there been an internet? Like, has there ever been, like, is this something really like next level human shit, or is this, or have we already been here before? Humans, they're finding all these fossils, discoveries of giant monolithic, cities that were buried with incredibly advanced, tools and reading of the cosmos, right? Like, they have their own, like, just with just with using their eyes and some basic math and stuff, they can map the entire cosmos like to an insane accuracy, which
Well,
is
why
mind
they
blowing.
did
What's that?
is it mattered to them and they cared.
Yeah.
That like the reason that these people one mapped it is one, they didn't have TV and other things to distract themselves, but it mattered to them to know exactly, okay, when this star gets to exactly this point, I need to go ahead and start planting these crops.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's why so many of the
We need to
myths and
start,
stuff
impregnating some
come
people when.
and rebirth and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where they had to sit there and stare. Like I have a theory that this has always been one of my favorite theories. The birth of intelligence and what we are is we actually had time to be bored. We
Hmm.
had time to not just have every single cycle of our brain be food, sex, food, sex. That we finally got to the point where we had enough going on that we got a half hour to kill. Oh, we got an hour to sit here and talk and grunt at each other till we figure it out. And to
Hmm.
where I think a lot of the intelligence and a lot of who we are came from a point where we suddenly had free time, that every single moment of our lives wasn't spent surviving. It's unfortunately
Huh.
idiocracy.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
But
that makes sense. Like once we have the ability to process all this information and deal with all this, and yeah, go through the simulations in our head and have these problems solved. Be like, okay, well, like, where are these soft, fleshy, hairless, almost fully hairless creatures that like don't really need. We walk on sidewalks, concrete sidewalks, and that's we build our houses out of these smooth like materials that are treated nicely. It does feel inorganic in a lot of ways. It feels so like removed from that primal thing. But the interesting thing is though, like civilization has only been this modern civilization has only been a blip, and that's what I mean. Like, has the internet happened before? How do we really know? Like,
yeah,
how do we really know when most of the traditions were oral? And I was talking to the last guy I was talking to on Tuesday, Logan, about oral traditions because he's a history buff, and he was talking about the Celtic people and about oral traditions of these civilizations that had thousands of years of oral traditions, where they just didn't either need to write things down or like it wasn't a necessity, and it's just so like out of the norm now that it's so hard to imagine. Like I can't even imagine that. I can't imagine what it would be like to have to remember all these stories and like not write anything down and communicate like that. And we think like that's inefficient, and maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's. I mean, the Celts aren't around now, but
yeah.
the is some. I don't know. There's something to that. Like if we had metal, if we had machines, and there was some
Uh,
cataclysmic event, it only takes 100 years, or so for a piece of metal to rust and completely oxidate. You know what I mean?
uh,
Like if we had
yeah.
metal in the past, it'd be gone. But,
There's a great show on YouTube, a great channel, Kurtz's Egg. It's in a nutshell, is the what it
hmm.
translates to. But it's animated and they kind of do science lessons. But one of the things they did that I thought was so cool is they've proposed a new calendar.
Hmm.
So where we look at our current calendar where it says, oh, year 2000. Well, using that base year of 2000 isn't really appropriate. If you go back and look at human civilization, the first human civilization, as we can tell, is 12,000 years ago. So instead of being the year 2000, we're looking at the year 12,020.
Mm-hmm.
That you start looking and say, okay, at 1,000 years is where we started Mesopotamia,
Mm-hmm.
at 5,000 years. And it actually, once you change that starting point, the history makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Uh, and it actually, one of the other things people don't really think about is when you look at stuff on a globe, on the map, because of the projections and everything that gets laid out on the map, the sizes aren't actually correct. To where
Right.
the maps are usually created with a bias. and they make certain areas look bigger based on what they want you to perceive.
So
So
you're
that's
saying,
where you get like Mercator projection and
yeah.
stuff like that.
So you're saying just the same way as how people um, have biased perspectives on the map or of a globe, they also have the biased perspectives on the map of human history, like the. That's a really interesting point because it really is a Christian centric way of thinking about history, right? It's all centered around this the story of Christ, right? The Christian religion, which
Yeah.
just seems arbitrary at this point, right? Like it seems like, oh, that's just, oh, it's for the agenda of that church, right? Like to spread this. But and people say, well, the Gregorian calendar is actually pretty fucking accurate, and actually a lot of these Christian theologians were incredible calendar makers or whatever. And I don't doubt that because it seems like, but things change. It's been a long time. I bet you there's better ways
Well,
to look at it. Like instead of a leap year, like, do we really need that? I don't know. Maybe.
yeah. Well, so much of them keeping the calendar the way they did all had to do with knowing the crops, knowing the
Right.
rotation, making sure the garden was tilled, and making sure all those processes went along, and just what happened there. And that's where a lot of the religion came from, was somebody saying, well, this is going to happen because I've seen this. I don't know. It feels like there's a
Like
lot less.
omens.
Huh?
Omens.
Yeah. Well, think about it. There's so many things today that happen that if you're alive 10,000 years ago, if you saw, you'd be like, oh my God, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, that's a comet.
Yeah. I mean, and imagine if you saw like lightning shooting out of something.
Right.
I mean, oh, the show The Orville, it has a great episode where they come across a civilization that their whole philosophy was based on astrology. And their ancient time, they had a star go out that was because of a supernova. And when that happened, there was like a cataclysm that fell the people. So everyone that was born under that astrological sign from that point
I think I saw
forward
that
was
episode. Yeah.
tied to that event. And it's just like, oh, well, they didn't know any other way. That's just how they were learned. That was what was passed down to
Right.
them.
That's
So
just
that's what they're like, oh, this is what it is.
that's bigotry, right? Like just then almost in a way, right? I think it is just these arbitrary, you know. Oh, you were born in under this sign, therefore you're evil. So we must, remove you from society because of our interpretation of the relationships of the cosmos. And I mean, I
Mhm.
think that's very, that's a dangerous mindset for sure. I like that show a lot. Orville is hilarious. I just
Oh
saw an
yeah,
ad before this that for another season or something. That I think they're coming up with another season.
yeah.
I
It's
found that to
actually
be more
moving
entertaining
Hulu.
than I found it to be more entertaining than the new Star Trek. For at some points, I'd find myself going to the Orville first. To be like, oh, I want to get. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's comedy and it. I don't know. Sometimes I just want to laugh and just be silly. And Star Trek, you really have to get like a lot of the new ones. You really have to get into it. It's super dramatic. Um,
Well, that is one thing I've learned about myself, and especially in these crazy times. If I watch entertainment, I want it to make me happy.
yeah,
I don't want to go in and watch a movie for 3 hours that's going to make me depressed. If I wanted to be depressed, I'd just go, oh, here's the newspaper. Oh,
yeah,
hey, let me turn on the TV.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
but no, when I'm watching media, when I'm watching a TV show, it's about that escapism and getting away from everything
Mm-hmm.
that's plaguing the world, and kind of sitting back and being like, all right, I'm 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 turning the brain off. I'm just letting the fun happen for a little bit. And unfortunately, that's so important to do right now.
Yeah, I think it can be useful therapeutically for sure. And I've been doing that too lately with playing games. I haven't been playing games forever, and I finally rebuilt. I finally built a new PC. I finally did it, and I got, I've been using my laptop for forever, and part of how I going this live stream and committing to it, like, and doing it more regularly, required me to have an actual machine that can manage this. Like, before, I'm chatting with you on Google Hangouts, and then like I have two video cameras that are, one is sending to you, one is sending to the stream, and before, with my laptop, I would try to just do that, just do Google Hangouts and stream with just one, and the computer would just go and start freaking out. The screens would start to flicker, and all, and then it would just cut out. All the things would, and the machine would shut off because it would get too hot, because it's getting old, and it's not made for that. It's not made for any of that stuff. So I got a new computer and it's pretty necessary, man, like to have a decent computer. But that was the thing. That was one of the big pivots to, like, really investing and committing into doing live streams, was doing more regularly, was you have to have some basic equipment to make it happen. And instead of getting a van, which I had things locked and loaded, I was just going to get the same, basically the same van as what Michael had when we came through, except with 3 extra seats. It's the same van, but just with a passenger version of it. And so people don't have to sleep on, loose in the
traveling on bed.
Yeah, exactly. But I had to make that move, have to make that call and switch. And it is amazing what the technology is right now, and what you can get for the amount of money. If you just know what you're doing a little bit, you can get away with saving a lot of money. Like, I think total my machine was it was like $850, and I spent a little more on liquid cooling and a nice quiet case, because I wanted to make sure it was very, very quiet, because I'm doing a lot of recording, and in the summer times especially, it gets hot, and the machines the fans go nuts, and it's super loud, and it's a really solid machine. I set it all up and it worked right out of the box. Well, I had out of all the boxes, but
I've built a couple before.
It's super fun to do. And you got to take your time with it. I almost made some stupid mistakes. Like, I didn't mount the motherboard on top of whatever those are called. I keep forgetting what they're called, but there were screws I had to put in first, and then put the motherboard on the screws, and then screw those into the other screws. Because I've realized it was a mistake when I put my graphics card in to, like, try it, and it just wasn't going all the way in. And I'm like pushing it firmly, but not like shoving it. Like a grade school or high school Ian would probably have done that as hard as possible. Like, get in there and break something. The one
thing I've learned about computers, if you have to force it, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, anytime it's like, no, just stop. Just stop right there. If you've had to force, you are causing a problem. So here's a question. You said you've been gaming. What games you've been playing?
So I've been playing League of Legends a little bit, every once in a while. Okay. I used to play Dota, and when I graduated from college, I played Dota for like a year, a lot, with my cousins, and that was super fun when I had no job and was pretending like I had no responsibilities in my life. And I've been playing Age of Empires a little bit, Age of Empires 2. I don't know if you play Age of Empires. Also play Civilization 6, which is fun game, which is free today. Anyone who's listening, if you want to listen, or if you want to get to Civilization 6, Epic Games is it's free. And so I'm trying to play some Civ, and some AoE. AoE, I have a match set up with some friends on Sunday. I'm going to try and live stream these things too more often. It's just another thing to, I don't know, when I'm playing with friends and stuff, it also becomes a privacy thing, and it's like, how much do I share? You got to tell people ahead of time, and then I got to make sure it works and set it up, and then if it's not set up, then I end up like doing poorly in the game because I'm like setting up the streams and fixing all the stream problems while I'm playing. But I've been playing this game with my buddy Ray called Killer Queen Black. It's like an arcade game on Steam. Those are the majority of the games that I play.
Okay, I'm
Probably.
gonna tell you, I had an addiction to Heroes of the Storm for a while,
Hmm.
which is the MOBA, kind of like Dota and League of Legends. And unfortunately, those games, to play them, you cannot have a life
Yeah,
because
a
it
lot of
changes
games.
so much and so quickly. Like, here's why I loved Heroes of the Storm. I played it from alpha and the beta and the release, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden they changed it, and I got busy at work, and I went 3 months without being able to play, and I came back, and I'd lost a little
Dog
bit of my
shit.
skill.
Yeah.
And
You can get
every
it back
game, I
though.
was just getting so flamed and so cussed out. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this. I like it became so toxic that I just got done and I couldn't play anymore.
Yeah, some game that can definitely be the case. Tales of Gore on YouTube says RimWorld. Y'all need RimWorld. RimWorld. I've never played RimWorld. Oh, Hollenbach is sending some on Twitch. Has sent a link to International Space Station simulation. Interesting.
I'll
I'll
have to
check that
try
out.
the Rim World.
RimWorld. Yeah, I've never
I
heard of RimWorld. I've heard this new game coming out. I forget. I got a message from Stream Elements, and it's like there's a new game that's on beta, closed beta, that's apparently like has is like by a long shot the most popular game on Twitch right now. It's got like it by a factor of 3 from the next game under it. But it's like a closed beta for players, so I think it's like a CSS. It's like a first-person shooter, I think, mixed with some other interesting elements. I don't know. I used to play Counter-Strike in high school. I was in a guild, and
Okay.
we played skirmishes and stuff. I played games a lot in early high school and in grade school, and then once once I really fell in love and understood the value of like making my music, I just kind of stopped playing games. And maybe it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, if I ever want a girlfriend, maybe I should get better at music and not. No, I don't. I'm sure that looking back, I've been like looking back at those times and wondering how many because I keep hearing that from other musicians, or other musicians will be like, I was just trying to get chicks. I'm like, okay, how much of that is real in my life too? But no, I really felt like I was, I don't know. It was hard for me to justify it because I felt like I was, and I hope gamers don't take this the wrong way, but this is how I felt at the time, and I needed a real break from it. I felt like I was wasting time. I felt like I was building skills. You build a skill in a game, and you get really good at a game, and then what? What can you show? And you can become a pro gamer, or you can become a streamer, and you can find value, and you can create a community that way, and you can, so that there's value in community, and connection with people. But for me at the time, I was just like, okay, I'm making this music, and I'm able to like build a career from this. Whereas I don't see myself being like a pro full-time gamer. Like I don't know. Music. I think I just knew I needed to really pursue the music and just make that a huge priority. And so I kind of stopped playing games pretty much altogether until basically until after I graduated college and played Dota with my cousins for like a solid 6 months to a year, where we just played a lot and got pretty decent. Not like amazing, but pretty decent. And then I stopped again for a while. Now with this quarantine, with my new computer, I'm like, oh, I can play all these games. And now I'm like, I just played Dungeons and Dragons last night with some friends, and it's like, okay, these are some like Civilization. That's a big time investment. Dungeons and Dragons is a big time investment, but like, it's, I don't know. I'm trying to like let go of that. Like, I need to always be productive. I need to always be doing something. It's like I do enough. I need to give myself a break and just this escapism, like you're saying, like just being able to like be in a group of guys. Well, I mean that's what it is in our D&D, at least right now. But in a group of people, like where you can just all play, simulate
Relax,
these,
enjoy yourself, and be yourself.
just really, and play and have fun with like playing make believe. You know what I mean? like just
Yeah.
just exercising those inner child needs, like, and being okay with that. And I don't know. And also gaming is a really it's a really cool industry, and actually it's an insanely huge industry. There's
Oh, and then
the
burn
gaming
out and
industry
the
is bigger than
music and movie
Hollywood and
combined.
yeah, by a long shot. And
See,
so
what I find
yeah.
hilarious though is I was a kid in the 80s. So like I was born in 76. So
Sure.
I remember being in the mid 80s and my mom going, "These video games are never going to amount to anything. You're just wasting all your time playing
Mm-hmm.
these video games." And I'm just like, "Mom," like, and the thing is, when I was a kid in the 80s, if I would have tried to go into a career in video games at that time,
Oh yeah, and that's not even a thing, right?
uh,
I mean,
it's just my guidance counselor was so full of shit. There were so many things I could have done out there that they never told you about any of them.
yeah, guidance counselor. All the kids out there, you're like listening. Your guidance counselor isn't always going to tell you the right things that you need to do. They're not some authority on what you should follow. You should follow what you want to do as much as possible. And the sooner you exercise those skills, and that's what I felt like as a kid. I was like, okay, I know that I'm not going to. I don't feel this compelling desire to be a pro gamer. Like, I feel this compelling desire to make this music. So the more you do that, and the sooner you do it, the sooner you get a leg out. And of course, there's always time to do. I mean, like, just because you're, but it's way easier. I feel like it's way easier to hit the ground running when you start developing these skills when you're younger. Like, if you start, I don't know, like, I started making music when I was 15 is my first album, and I had momentum coming in, and then these last few years I really doubled down after, like, have almost a decade of me doing it, and like still going to college and trying out going to work with other companies and stuff, and really realizing, like, okay, some part of me thinks like, oh, maybe I should have just kicked it into gear earlier. But I did what everyone's on their own journey. And I think if you, the sooner you do that stuff, the better for kids, like,
Well,
to learn
and
those
it's a
skills.
question of what do you consider your level of success? Where do you
Right.
want to be at? Like, if you can sit there and make music like you're doing and make $60,000 a year, you'd probably be pretty happy, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I
That'd be
mean, it's
amazing.
all about doing what you enjoy and getting the enjoyment out of it to where you don't have to be the multi-million dollar tour in these sold out arenas. It would be nice just to be able to make a living off of it.
Yeah, it's like you said. What is your success? And I think there's layers, and there's different layers and achievements to unlock. It's like there's the base level of success, and there's career success, and then there's personal success. Because I think ultimately, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, when I get really really, I've had a lot of issues with, like, being really impatient and being like, I've been putting in all the work and where's, like, I want to be there. I want to be where in my head where I envision something in the future. I'm like, I want to be there now. And I get really, like, I have these, like, inner temper tantrums, or like these inner like I get really frustrated that I'm not there. But then I
That you
start,
put up this effort and you were expecting this growth and you only saw this growth. But if
I
you
don't,
wait a
yeah.
little longer, you're going to see
I don't
it.
know. Yeah, it's just it's not even about, like, the numbers or the growth or anything. Like, I don't project things or expect things per se, and maybe that's part of why. Maybe, or like, I don't have intentional expectations for things. I probably do have expectations, but I don't think about them intentionally. But it's more like just not being comfortable with who I am right now. I've been thinking that, like, some success down the line, that's what's gonna make me happy, as opposed to who am I right now in my skin, in this moment, in this chair. Like, if I can be happy now with where I'm at, and that's why I'm, like, trying to, like, take a more relaxed approach to things more and more, even though it's very difficult because I'm only putting more work on myself. But like, I don't know, balancing that. I just feel like you have to be happy with where you're at now. Otherwise, if you're I mean, you can work towards a better, more fulfilled life, and like obviously, there's ways to improve always, and get have greater potential for happiness. But it's not like some magic wealth or some magic success,
I,
or like is gonna bring you that true happiness. Like it has to come from within you.
I gotta say, and I was sitting out on my back deck on Saturday night, and there was actually a moment where Sybil was out there with me, and I thought about it, and I was like, if child me looked at me where I am right now, he'd be pretty happy.
Hmm.
Like he'd be, because like I'm at the point where I'm no longer chasing um, products and stuff like that. I'm chasing my retirement. I've gotten past that point of, well, I could do this, but I'm like, well, I want to get to retirement a little bit sooner. I got this
Hmm.
back porch that I love sitting there hanging out on and just hiding away from the world. And I don't know, it's very interesting because a decade ago, if I'd asked myself if I was happy where I was, no, I wouldn't have been.
Hmm.
Actually, is a decade ago, I was in school, going back to college at 34 years old a decade ago. Smartest decision I ever made in my life was going back and finishing school, though,
Hmm.
because I will say, like, I thought about it at one point, trying to make the chase and trying to do the podcasting and getting it and building out to a point where I could make a living and a career doing it. But then when I went to school and I graduated and I got a good job, it was just, this is easier. If I'm doing the work and I'm having a job as my full time, that means when I'm sitting there doing my podcast, it's not because it's the pressure of doing it to make a living. It's a
Hmm.
pressure of, hey, am I still having fun doing this? And that is the one thing that always comes down to the bottom. It's most important to me.
Right.
Am I still having fun doing this?
Yeah, that's a legit concern about like making your passion your business. I think a lot of people have is like when your passion becomes your grind, and then and your grind, then you just do it and you lose your passion. It becomes passionless. So like when you're just trying to survive and you're making compromises to your passion and like the things that you want. I think that's a concern that a lot of people have, and it's probably and there's things that I do, song like playing songs that I don't want to play, or doing things that I don't want to do, or programming things, or doing all these like monotonous things, or performing places where it's like, well, here we go. We're just like, who knows if this is gonna be fine, but it's definitely part of the journey. And
Could you imagine being a one-hit wonder that has that one track that just every show, every time you go out to play, that everybody's like, I want to hear it, and you're just like the monkey on stage giving them that one song.
yeah, man,
Eh,
that doesn't sound fun. I mean, people. I'm setting up this thing now. Talk about things that I'm working on that for the live streams. I should have it ready for tomorrow. It's like functioning and was tested and stuff. There's some improvements I need to do. I was hoping to have it ready for the next live stream, but essentially I'm like doing a tip ranking, or like a song tip ranking, where people can go on my website and they can like vote, and throw a tip for certain to request certain songs, and
mhm.
then I'm gonna have like a whole leaderboard, and have like whatever top 3 songs on the leaderboard the previous month. I'll play, that those songs that month on the live stream, and
Uh-huh.
just try and move that forward. And I wonder about that, about like, well, what if one song just what if what if one song is the number one the whole time? It's like, well, all right, I guess I'll just play it every single time if that's what people want. Just play the same song. I'll play I Don't Mind It every time, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that's the song that's gonna be it, but
It's going to be B9 to Thrive,
that
or the
way.
Falcon Messiah, or Runaway. Although I actually wanted, and see, the thing is I need to get you to come back by Devil O and talk about stuff over there. but I do love the new album. There's actually influences that I'm sitting here hearing the tracks, and I'm like, oh wait, this makes me think of this.
Hmm.
And there's some like influences that I haven't been able to lock down on it yet.
That's great.
That's like, I know it's there. What is this?
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. It's a interesting. Yeah, Runaway is gonna come. It's gonna be released on Spotify on Monday. So
Okay,
it's on
so
my site, but
you're staggering out the Spotify releases again and stuff like that.
yeah, on all the streaming platforms, like every 2 weeks, I've been releasing one song, and then I think next month it's gonna be releasing two at a time, maybe, or maybe there's another month of one song at a time. I think, and then July I think is two songs at a time for the rest of it. Um, But I think it's a much better way because every Friday Spotify puts it on people's release radar playlists. So like
Mm-hmm.
I see instead of just releasing one album and getting like one bump, I release, you know, 8 to 9 singles and get 8 or 9 bumps, little bumps. And so it's just the way that the algorithms want. I'm just working with the system, and eventually I think it's in July.
Uh-huh.
In July, the whole album will be available on Spotify, and then I'll just remove all the singles, and it'll just be.
I, I always think it's funny anymore. People always talk about chasing algorithms.
Hmm.
Like the YouTube creators are like, well, we got to chase algorithms. Oh, on Spotify, we got to chase algorithm. We got to figure out what the computer is going to decide to promote. And
Yeah.
that's kind of a crazy that it takes the human aspect out of it. And it's just like, oh,
Well,
because this many people put this on, we're going to play this. Or because this many people put this.
yeah. In a way, it's good and bad. I mean, I'm still releasing my albums on my site, and in a way, it's actually nice. It's just like this year reminded me how important it is to have my own site and to like build that authentic community. Like how I have my fundraiser like on my site, and I have the album release on my site. Like that's the only place you can go to listen to it is on my site. So it forces everyone there. And then if people are interested in supporting, they can support me right there instead of, okay,
Hmm.
Spotify, you listen to on Spotify, maybe I get like a tenth of a cent every time you listen to one song. Like maybe it's more like 100th of a cent. But like, you know, it's an easier way for people to just directly connect and direct just like write me to them.
Mhm.
No, there's not a lot of middlemen, and yeah, like I'm chasing the algorithms in a way, but these are just like algorithms that they're algorithms that are made by humans, and it's just a weekly radar thing. Like
Mhm.
what happened this like let's give you all the songs of the people you subscribe to that released stuff this week. Every Friday they do it, and it lasts a week. And
Mhm.
I think that's a good thing. I like that idea, and I've found a lot of people that are really enjoy like these algorithmic playlists, and they really enjoy what Spotify can do for them with these playlists. And it's a different medium. It's not the album medium, like,
I,
but it'll get there. It's like a half a year where Spotify, you only listen to a few songs at a time. If you want to listen to them, go to my site. I think that's fine. Like you just gotta wait to listen to the whole album.
what I always find interesting though is I'm one of those few people that still wants my music local. I want all
Yeah,
my music on my phone. I don't want to have to be
that's
reliant
so
on
rare, man.
streaming. Like, and with what I do for the podcast, I just am such a different approach to it than 90% of the listening public.
Yeah.
But I want the tracks on my phone. I don't want to have to sit there and wait. But I also want to make sure that everything I'm pulling in is a Creative Commons license because I will tell you there's nothing I hate more than being like, oh my God, this song's fantastic. I cannot
Hmm.
share it with a single soul.
Yeah, I hear you. That's I mean that's why I'm a big advocate of Creative Commons. It's like just today, some like skater teenager guy was just working with some stuff on a scooter and a skateboard with his friends. Made a little video on YouTube or on Instagram with one of my songs. Tagged me, I just like reposted it, and he's just like, oh my god, this is like, thank you so much for allowing me to have this music. Like, he was terrified of like using copyrighted music and getting taken down, or like what was the right thing to do, and it just was so easy for him to just be able to like, oh, here's some good music that I can use. And it's a really it's crazy that that's a revolutionary, or that it seems like it's a counter idea. It's like what you were saying about I don't know what the word it was that you said, not unfettered capitalism, but just like this runaway capitalism, where it's like there's no rules anymore for people who are in control. They've just like gotten rid of all the, and we have monopolies everywhere. It's just like everywhere, and and every industry has been totally corrupt. Like we're talking about the food industry, right? You're talking about farmers before. People are getting sick, and people everywhere, and the healthcare industry. That's why I don't get that confused when people are believing all these random conspiracies and all this stuff. It's like, I understand why people believe these conspiracies, because no one knows who to trust. Everyone knows that there are malicious like intentions in the healthcare industry. You know, especially when it comes to pharmaceutical and insurance companies. We know that, everyone knows that. Like everyone knows that. I mean, I'm not talking about like nurses and doctors and stuff, but like the
Purdue family, or whoever.
Purdue Pharma.
Oh, I can't remember their names, but they're basically the ones that were behind the opiates and stuff like that.
Just spent they don't. And where are they? Like everyone talks about the opioid crisis, and how come no one's held accountable for any of this? It's crazy, and that's just one. I think it's across the board in almost every industry. It's everywhere, and music is one of those things where, since I was a kid with the internet and like listening to like the early hip hop and being in the Creative Commons world, and kind of in the, well, I didn't really understand. I didn't really get I don't know when Creative Commons came out, but being in the open source world, definitely as a little kid in the early days of the internet, where people were just sharing and creating things together, building these organic communities in a void, where it's like, here's a little space, like go at it, Wild West, man, like do whatever you like, and there's something really beautiful about that, about the sharing, and about and like I said, when someone can use my music and make something out of it, and it transcends, and I feel it. Like I feel this deep sense of like, whoa, like especially when someone does a really great job. It's one of the best feelings in the world. Like I would say, seeing some real piece of art that someone poured their heart out with using one of my songs, like, and taking my song and elevating it. It moves me so deeply, more than an easy licensing paycheck. It's like, great, okay, you use it in your corporate thing, cool. I get some money, that's nice, but I don't get moved by that. I don't feel too much. It's just like, okay, now maybe I can invest this, or whatever, or I need to pay my rent, or whatever it is, like just survival. But I don't know. I it's a beautiful thing. I'm happy that there are still folks that are, these radio with Creative Commons radio. I was just talking with a guy who was setting up a radio show, and he here in around the greater Milwaukee area, and he was just trying to showcase his neighbors and his friends and everything, and he was doing this internet radio with his friends, getting explicit permission from all of them to use it, but put it on streamed it on Facebook, and it was getting taken down. All this stuff was getting taken down because it didn't have permission, or supposedly, or like there was copyright material when he does have explicit permission from the owners of these songs, who, like, I don't know if whatever distribution service, do they give up their rights to like have someone else decide? Maybe. So it's just it's so convoluted.
I remember talking with Kevin McCoy a couple weeks ago, because I love Kevin McLeod, I'm sorry. And he was talking about the BMI ASCAP and how they do take some of that rights to be able to go after people on your behalf, even if you don't want to. And the thing is I've always been the person that I don't care if you give me explicit rights. It's the fact I want everyone to have those same rights.
Yeah.
And even from the get go and forever on the double O, the listeners would prefer that I stayed with the rule. They don't want me to break from going and saying, oh, okay, well, we're going to play this non creative because I have explicit rights. They're like, no, we want it because
Right.
it's released.
Because they're part of this. They're part of this culture. They're trying to perpetuate these ideals of Creative Commons. They're engaged in it. They're not just they believe in it, right? And if you're part of that community, I would imagine. Hollenbach asks, can you give us a clue about the tracks that Speed Kicks? Is that how I pronounce Spide Kicks? I don't know. Speed Kicks, yeah. Speaking of remixes, I don't know if he gave. I mean, I know what it is, but
Don't tell me. Like, okay, so
did you
here's
get something from him?
for people who don't know. Both you and Speed Kicks had a new album drop the same week, and we were sitting in the Double O show, and Amsterdam at Collenbach is like, "Oh, we need to get a remix of Speed Kicks doing a remix of Cullah." So we've actually gotten that going, and they've picked the remix. I do not want to know what the remix track is going to be until I hear it.
Okay. I'm glad I didn't say anything then.
Yeah, because it's kind of exciting. It's kind of like that. And I know,
You're gonna like it.
Talking with Kick, he said they just finished an album, so it's not going to be like a super quick thing, but it's something kind of cool to look forward to.
Well, I sent him over. I sent him all my stems, so
Yeah,
we got.
and I got to.
It's happening.
That's one of my favorite things that I've actually feel like I've been able to do is through the double O. I feel like I've actually added to the overall culture of the world. And because like that song's going to exist, there's a couple songs out there that exist just because of the show and just because of my efforts. Like, and you coming on the tour of the South, I helped make that happen. And there was music
and again
stuff
this year, if it happens, if we're allowed to travel.
Well, last year's.
We're gonna do it again though.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Although I'm torn between trying to get a venue and trying to do it from here again. I think we need to get a venue
Let's do both.
so we can get more people in.
Let's do both, man. Or a venue. Yeah, you could do a private, or more. You could do a private. Well, you don't even need to do a private. You probably know someone, right, who has a venue. Even if it's an old rinky-dink bar, with a corner.
Yeah. Well, I know some places. We'll be able to figure it out. We'll make it happen.
Well, that's good that you can have that. I think that's a beautiful thing that most people could really. You talk about success, right? Like, have you added to culture? Have you just done your little part in the world to make it a little bit better than how you came, right? Like to push to, and that's why I think the idea of Creative Commons and why it's so appealing to me is because I think it's a way to make my music and to make a difference at the same time of like try and combat these monopolistic cultural monoliths that are just like they just like perpetuate these things of this mindless. So like I was saying, since I was a kid, like I could hear the music on the radio, and once I started to understand the corruption in the industry and like how the music gets made and why it's getting made and what's the purpose of these songs on the radio and what's the purpose of the radio and like what does it become. And I don't think there's some like grand conspiracy of the Illuminati coming in and stuff. I just think it's just how the system is made. Like
I think it's just about money.
Yeah, the system just slowly becomes more and more tailored towards those who are in positions to change the rules, and they just slowly change the rules on their behalf, maybe consciously, maybe subconsciously. Maybe they're doing it on purpose, maybe they don't even know they're doing it, and they think that they're doing everything right, and that could very well be. They're just addicted to money and power. And I think a lot of people, I don't know. It seemed pretty like apparent to me as a kid, well, even really young in grade school, when I discovered the White Stripes in 8th grade. I was like, I've been lied to my whole life. I've been like, what have I been listening to? And no, of course, at that time in my life, my brain there was a lot of things that I was waking up to in middle school, to becoming more autonomous individual, and really being skeptical of everything around me and all the institutions and everything, and being like, everyone's been lying to me this whole time, like, or they're pretending, even if they're not explicitly lying, they're pretending like they know how it works when they don't. And because like we were saying earlier, do you really know? How much do you really know? Most people don't really know shit. Yeah, that's Aristotle, right? All I know is that know nothing, or is that Socrates? I don't know.
I just want to say, when it comes to music moments that changed my world, when I was in high school, I still remember when Smells Like Teen Spirit hit. There is definitely a moment in musical history that was before and after Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like on the same levels of the Beatles. I think that song and that change was that impactful.
Yeah, Nirvana was huge at the time. Yeah. That was just before my time. The grunge, I never got into the grunge. I'm not a grunge but baby. I came a little after.
Yeah, I used to be a huge Pearl Jam fan, but now I'm all about the hipster music, as my friends call it.
It's extra hipster, man. It's Creative Commons. That's like obscure hipster music, right? It's like, oh, I only listen to Creative Commons music, royalty free. I don't succumb to the capitalist system, man.
Yeah, well, the sad thing is it's actually been like 7-8 years since I've actually been 100% Creative Commons in my listening. Like, because of the show and because of what I do, it's just I've just switched. Like I said, everything I have is on my phone. It's local, so I just download my library and I kind of go from there. And I have not missed it. I've not looked back.
That's great. Awesome.
But
yeah,
Cullah, we're up on 2 hours.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we hit the 2 hour mark. I appreciate you coming on.
And appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man, it's always great to chat. I'm happy things are going all right, and you guys are you're safe and still enjoying life and still doing the best you can, still working. So that's all great news, man. I'm grateful for you and your show as always, and definitely looking forward to coming down and partaking in some delicious food again, and some great music.
Yeah, well, and I'm definitely down for that. And before then, we need to just get you to come by the 00. We actually had Mike, 3D Beggar, come by like a month ago.
Yeah,
where he actually went up and did a live performance from his studio, to where we could do the same there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, absolutely. I'm down. I've been doing it. Count me in.
All right. Well, we will follow up and we will figure out if it's next week or the week after.
Right on.
And then you can just go right into your nightly, and that way it will work out perfect. Well, your Friday nightly, your weekly.
That's it. We could just bring the people right there. Yeah, do a raid on Twitch. I don't know. Pretty Baker did that to me last time. There's some raid. I don't know. I'm still learning Twitch. For those, all right. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks again, Ryno. I'm gonna cut to the music and I'll say goodbye. All right, bye everybody. See you.
See y'all.